war and conflict don't only cause physical pain and suffering, but also it's the infliction of mental trauma. The death toll currently is about 14,000 children killed in the ongoing war in Gaza, but there are reports of 500,000 children with the mental impact of war in that area. And a special colloquium talk was recently held at the University of Stellenbosch looking at the mental health crisis in Gaza. The talk delved into the profound psychological impacts of enduring and surviving trauma. And I speak now to Dr Marwan Diab, who led that talk, who, among others, is a research associate at the Department of Psychology at Stellenbosch University. Marwan, thanks so much for joining me. Really appreciate your time. 500,000, 500,000 children reported to be suffering from forms of mental health or post-traumatic stress disorder. We know that war is taking a physical toll on everyone there, and the healthcare sector overburdened. Can we first talk about the mental toll that this war is currently having on both the residents of Gaza, but also for people like you, a healthcare provider and a mental health care provider currently at the moment? Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Lister, and good morning, everyone in South Africa. And thank you for CapeTalk for giving me the opportunity to talk about the mental health situation in the Gaza Strip. I was born and raised in Gaza Strip, and I have been witnessing all these atrocities and genocide that has been happening over the past few years. Of course, the mental health conditions currently are extremely difficult due to the ongoing persistent atrocities, genocide, and killing of mass destruction everywhere in different parts of the Gaza Strip. And of course, you will find, for example, people who are suffering from children will be having nightmares, sleep disturbances, behavioral problems, horror, fear, and so everyone will, this is for the children's, and of course, they will have different behavioral problems. As far as the adults, feelings of hopelessness and feelings of despair, and there is no chance for them to get out of this, and the amount of displacements that they have been encountering, forced displacement from one place to another. Personally, within 2 months, when I was living in there since October 7th, I have been displaced 7 times from Gaza City to South Gaza, then Middle Gaza, then back again to South Gaza. And there has been some personal exposure to my family, where we were hit by a huge bomb targeting an Islamic school nearby. So this thing has, of course, caused us tremendous impact at the physical and psychological level. The amount of the magnitude of the destruction, the daily suffering as far as the bombing and the daily life struggles that we are dealing with due to the shortage of medical supplies and due to the shortage of personnel, due to the personal exposure of healthcare workers and aid workers. All these things impose more restrictions on the provision of services. We, as mental health providers and health providers, we try our best in order to try to be sane among all these atrocities, try to be as much as we can, because there is an image that we, as psychologists, supposed to be immune from all these mental health problems. You're supposed to be strong. You're not supposed to be fearing. You're not supposed to be, having any troubles. But we push it and we try our best. Of course, the way we have been, we are supported by people outside academics, researchers, or support groups who provide to us professional supervision and peer support. And there is something that we caring for caregivers. Sometimes we implement personal coping strategies such as exercising, spiritual practices. This is a very important aspect that we have in Gaza Strip, because we resort to God for any help that we would like. So this is very important for us. So it will help us balance
Yeah.
the emotional toll that has been happening, and it will also help us with what we call secondary trauma
Yeah.
and or vicarious traumatization. So all these things that we conduct help us out, even though it's still extremely difficult. And this genocide has been it's unprecedented and has not been has not never happened before.
I want to talk about intergenerational transmission of trauma in a short while, but is counseling happening? Can counseling happen, and how does it happen in areas which are still very much active conflict zones? How much debriefing can be done with a
Yes.
young victim of war if there is still the ongoing threat of conflict, a bomb attack, a rocket launch happening right now?
Yes, we implement what we call short-term interventions and debriefing. However, in order to provide counseling, first of all, you need to have a safe place. And unfortunately, there is no such a thing in Gaza. There is no safe place. There is a claim that people should move to a safe humanitarian area. However, such areas have been targeted over and over again. So counseling in a long-term counseling is something that's being postponed. However, we provide some what we call psychological first aid, where we go to the victims of violence and provide them with some brief talking, trying to reduce their level of stress and providing them with links to resources that they need in the immediately, and rather than deep therapy or psychotherapy, because this will not happen, because there has been, as you are treating the individuals, there will be another trauma happening to them. So this will defeat the purpose if you are trying to have any long-term support for the people. So in general, we provide what we call recreational activities, some games. We provide some stress relief activities, women's groups to discuss things among them, and psychoeducation. We just try to for them to understand that this is something that's happening to your body. Your body is reacting to a stressor that's beyond your capacity. Therefore, what you are feeling from the behaviors or your body is reacting. So, therefore, we're trying to make sense to the reactions that are happening to them, meaning that they are acting normally to an abnormal situation. And it's extremely abnormal circumstances that people are encountering. It's beyond their capacity, beyond their coping mechanisms.
Marwan, you're a research associate at Stellenbosch University, so you may be familiar with South Africa and our experience with post apartheid trauma and ongoing violent crime. 72 people are killed on average daily in South Africa. We could very much liken it to a war zone here. Context are, of course, different. But what is that impact on the developing brain of a young child, whether it is experiencing a war zone in Gaza, in the Ukraine, whether it is a young child who lives in a particularly violent area of Cape Town, exposed to gangs, gun violence here in Cape Town? What happens to the young brain as it's being formed by continuously being exposed to violence and the trauma of violence?
Yes, thank you. Children in general supposed to be living or leading a normal life, and they have stages of development that they're supposed to be having. However, if this get interrupted by traumas, stress, excessive stress, then their development will be impacted at so many different levels, at the emotional level, at the cognitive level, and the behavioral level. So for sure, their cognitive schemata will be impacted, and they will definitely have tendency for more violence, more irritability. They will have more revengeful thoughts, because this is something that will impact their development, and they will not be in a healthy environment. And of course, this will definitely affect their development. I just want to, if you don't mind, I just want to raise just a quick question regarding people's coping. Normally, people would like to use mosques and worship places to have some religious practices in order to come close to God, to help them cope. However, such places have become extremely dangerous places because they have been targeted by the Israelis several times, and many people have been killed. And in fact, recent attack has killed over 100, where people were gathered in small sacks. They were weighing them. If they were 70 kilos, then they will be considered a body. Can you imagine the amount of stress and amount of trauma that people, when they see such a thing, how would that impact them? Another thing regarding children, when they see their parents being burnt in front of them or being killed in front of them under or still under the rebel, can you imagine how they will have such to grow up in such development? Of course, definitely the humiliation that the parents sometimes are being humiliated as a result of being asked to strip naked in front of the soldiers. Such humiliation, of course, will not produce healthy children.
Yeah. Just how long does it take for a normalization of violence to set in a developing child's brain? We're I would want to believe we're not born with any form of toleration of violence, particularly inflicting gross violence. But I know of cases here in Cape Town where it is a pastime for young boys and young children in general to say, oh, let's go look at the body that is lying there after a gun shooting. Just how long does it take? Does this violence become normalized in a developing child's brain?
Yes, I think this is very important. If first of all you need to remove the stressor, you need to remove the environment. You need to have to maintain a healthy environment for the child to start absorb that what's happening around them, and this will take years for the child to start to absorb that this is something that will be normal. There is no such a thing called normal, or there is no, in such circumstances, healing is not happen. We are just coping with the what is happening now, just trying to maintain our level of sanity. And but healing, it's a long process that needs deep intervention, needs some different forms of interventions to help out the children and the population. When I say children, actually the whole, in the past, it used to be that, we focus on the children because they are the most vulnerable. But unfortunately, nowadays in the Gaza situation, all the population are affected by this current genocide that's happening. So we have to intervene at all the levels, including the children, women, and elderly, and patients, and so everything. So it's really very traumatizing for everyone.
You mentioned the idea of revengeful thought, and I think that is very important to discuss if we're talking for instilling a sense of long-term resolution or overall peace, particularly within that region. What happens to the 500,000 children who may develop some form of revengeful thought, or at another extent, almost a form of radicalization based on this war? Marwan, how do we start counseling 500,000 children to start being a generation that looks ahead to a long-term resolution, a long-term peace between Israel and Palestine?
Yes, unless the children see that there are some practical solutions that are happening and long term, and they are gaining back their freedom, gaining back their childhood. This will take a process of healing for them. That's one thing, and the intervention needs to be massive at the community level. Professionals need to provide some reconciliation, some some therapies that are
Marwan, I'm going to have to leave it there. Unfortunately, I'm losing your connection, but thank you so much for joining us. A fascinating conversation, and I really appreciate your work. Dr. Marwan Diab is a visiting research associate at the Department of Psychology at Stellenbosch University, just recently leading a talk into the impact on mental health of children as a result of the war in